Hello everyone. In the last video, we discussed about tokens and two different categories of tokens, which was identifier and keywords. Now, continuing with that topic, in this video, you will be learning about literal, which is the third category of token. Now, literals are data items that have fixed values. So we call literals as basically constant values. So these are the different types of literals which are there in Python: Boolean, numeric, string, special, and then collection. We will be discussing all of these one by one in this video. Now, starting with the string literal. String literal is a sequence of characters surrounded by quotes. So any text that you write inside double quotes or single quote is your string. So you can either use double quote or single quote for a string. And make sure if you're using double quote, so you should end that string with double quote only. I mean, this is wrong. You cannot do this. This is wrong because here I'm starting it with a double quote and ending it with a single quote, which is wrong. So as you can see the example. The first one is hello world, where I have enclosed the text in double quotes. And since I've started it with a double quote, so I'm ending it with a double quote as well. Similarly, here I'm using single quote. So here also I have used a single quote. Anything that you enclose inside these quotes is your text or the string part. Now, these are the example of single line string. So if you have a single line string, then you can surround it by double quotes and then single quotes. But what if you want to, what if you want multi-line strings? So let us discuss this on idle. Yeah. So now you see here that, okay, let me first make single line string. So since I've enclosed in double quotes, so it is giving me the same output since we are doing it on the shell. Now, and then you can do the same thing using single quotes, but you can't do this as I mentioned. This is wrong because if you have started with the double quote, it will expect double quotes only in the end. Now, suppose I want all these are single line string because all the characters are in a single line. But what if you want multi-line string? Like suppose I want to do something like this. I want hello in this line. Then I want world in next line. Let's see what happens if I press enter. See, I pressed enter and it is saying end of line while scanning string literal. Why? Because it is expecting the double quote here in the end of the string for finding the end of the string. That is why it is showing this error. Now, the problem is if this is the case, then how you will write multi-line strings? Like suppose you want to continue a string in next line. For that, there are two ways for adding multi-line string. What you can do, either you can add a backslash at the end. Let me show you an example using making a file. Let's say I have this file. I'm writing a is equals to hello, and then here I will add this backslash. So by adding this backslash, now you can continue in the next line. Hello world, and then I will say print a. Print is basically a function used for printing anything that you printing any value. So it will just print the value of this a string. Okay, now I'm saving it. Demo 1. Yeah. Now you see, but it will obviously show you in the single line only. It will not store the string as it is. Like world will not be in the next line. So if you actually want multi-line strings, so what you can do is, see, as I remove the backslash, it is not showing this world in green color because it is not taking this world as a part of this particular string. So if you want to, the other way is if you want the string output to be in the next line as well, so you can use multi-line, this triple quotes. So start with triple quote, end with triple quote. Now if I run this, it will give me the same output, and you can use triple single quotes also, but make sure to end with single quote only then. Now you run it. So it will give you the same output. So that's how you can add multi-line strings in your program. Anything you enclosed inside single quotes becomes your string literal. Now, what if I want to include single quote as a part of my string? Like suppose I'm writing I want to write this string. CMAS, I want to use it as this, not as single quote, as apostrophes, but it will show an error, invalid syntax. Why? Because you started with a single quote and then it encounters single quote again. So it is taking this whole portion as string only. But here I am not using this symbol as single quote. I am using this as apostrophes. But you know this, right? The interpreter doesn't know about this, that you are using it as an apostrophes. So there are certain, like this apostrophes, there are certain characters which carry special meaning and has special purpose. Like the single quote has a special purpose. It marks the starting and ending of the string. But I don't want to use that that symbol as single quote. I want to use it as an apostrophes. So for that, you need to convey this to Python interpreter, that like this symbol apostrophes should be printed as it is. You want to use it as it is, not as its special meaning. So for conveying that, we have escape character, which is this slash. So you need to add this backslash for conveying this to the Python interpreter. Now, if you write this, now I don't want that character to be used as single quote. I want it to be used as it is. So now if you write like this, now it is fine. It is printing the correct string. So basically you can say that escape character backslash is used for suppressing the special meaning associated with that particular character. Like single quotes are used for string. Now you want to suppress this special meaning. You want it to be used as it is. So you can convey it to the Python interpreter using a backslash. Now that was all about single and multi-line string. Now the next topic is size of a string, like how you can compute the size of a string. So basically size of string is determined as count of characters in that string, like how many characters are present in that string, that is the size. Now if we see here, like we have 2 backslash. Now backslash is an escape character, and the character with which you are using this backslash, let's say in our example we used it with single quotes, so this whole thing becomes your escape sequence. Okay, so you have to count this escape sequence as 1. Like in our example, we know this backslash is escape character and it is used for this backslash. So this becomes your escape sequence. So the size is 1. Now here we have simple 3 characters. So the size is 3. Now in the next example, CMAS pen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is your escape sequence. So this will be counted as 1, 6, 7, and then 1 space, 8. Don't forget to count it because space is also a character. 8, 9, 10 and 11. So you just have to make sure that you are counting the escape sequence as 1. Though these 2 will not be counted as 2 characters because this escape character was used to suppress this single quote special meaning. So it will not, they both will be treated as escape sequence. So count them as 1. I hope it is clear. Now you can use the length function. We have one length function for calculating the size of string. So we will just verify it on the idle also, but we have discussed only examples of single line string. Now you think for a minute how you will compute the size of multi-line string. Okay, so the rule is that if you are using triple quoted multi-line string, that means your strings can be in new line and they are actually stored in the same format. So you have to count the end of line characters. But if you are using single quote and then you are using backslash, so as I've shown you that it will not, the string will not be stored in a multi-line, but it will allow you to type in next line. So that is why we do not count this backslash. But if you have multi-line string using triple quotes, you need to count it. Let's discuss this using an example. Okay, let's say I have this A, and then I'm using this slash so that I can type in next line B, C, and then end. Now you have len function for calculating the length of any string. It will automatically compute the size and give it the output. You just need to pass the string. So let's see what will be the size. It's saying 4. Why? Let's see. A is a character, so 1. Then you have a space 2. Now, as I told you, this backslash is not counted. So this is 2. Now we go to B, 3. Again, ignore this backslash, and then 4. So you have 4 characters. Now, why we are not counting backslash? Because it is not actually a new line. We are just using this backslash so that we can continue in the next line. Okay, so that's why we are not counting it. Now, if I change it to this A, triple quotes, A, B, and C. Now, let's see the size. It will be 5. Now you are getting 5. See, as I told you, the end of lines are counted if you are using triple quotes. So basically, this A is 1. Now we are going to next line. So this new line is a character. So 2. This is 3. Now after this, you are again going to a new line 4, and then your character 5. So that's why the length is 5, or you can say the size is 5. I hope this is clear how to compute the size of string, and it is important. You might get some question on this. Okay, so now the next category is numeric literals. Numeric literals, basically there are 3 types: integers, float, and complex numbers. So first we will discuss integer literals. Integer literal basically are positive and negative numbers including 0 without any fractional part. So if I plot this line, any numbers like your numbers between infinity to positive infinity without fractional part, mind it, are your integer literals, like 7, 4, 10, -10, you can say. All these are your integer literals. Integer numbers also, integers, you must have studied them in your maths. They are same, okay? Now, as we all know, like if I plot it on a number line, we do have sign associated with numbers, right? So in Python, if you do not add any sign, if you do not, like, there is no sign with any number, it is automatically taken as a positive number. The sign is automatically taken as plus. Like if I write 7 only, it will be treated as +7. So if you want to, if you want the sign to be negative, you have to explicitly mention it, like -7. If you add this negative sign, then only it will be taken at negative. Otherwise, it will be taken as a positive number only. Okay. Now, the integer literal is further divided into 3 categories: decimal, octal, and hexadecimal. These are the basically different bases in which you can represent a number. Decimal is the number system that we follow, like 8, 10, -10. The number system that we follow is your decimal number. Make sure that you do not write any number like this in Python. This is not decimal number. Your number cannot start with 0 in case of decimal literal. Okay, so it is, so we say that the decimal integer literal is an literal consisting of sequence of digits, and it should not begin with 0. You will come to know why when we will discuss the octal one. Octal integer literals are basically sequence of digits that starts with 0. Okay, that is why we do not start decimal number with 0. And in case of octal, you have numbers only till 0 to 7. You use 0 to 7. These are known as base 8, represented in base 8, 0 to 7 for representing an octal number, and it should start with 0. And in case of hexadecimal, it is either 0x or 0x. That's how you can identify whether an integer literal given to you is decimal, hexadecimal, or octal. In case of hexadecimal, the range is 0 to 15, like 0 to 9, and then after that you have A to F. So actually 15 characters are there. Okay, and then in decimal you can say you have 0 to 9 digits. We can make any number using 0 to 9, right? Include by adding the sign. Okay, so now suppose if I give you any number, it is very simple. If you want to identify whether it is decimal, octal, or hexadecimal, if I write 8, as you can see, it is not beginning with 0, so it is decimal. If I write 0x8, now it is an hexadecimal number. because I have 0x in the beginning. If I write 0, 7, it is octal. Now you would say, why I have not written 0, 8? Because it is not valid. As I have told you, octals have numbers only 0 to 7. 8 is not there, so you cannot use it. It is invalid. The range is this, 0 to 9, and then A to F. And then in case of decimal, we have 0 to 9. I hope it is clear. Okay, so that's how you can identify whether an integer literal given to you is decimal, octal, or hexadecimal. The next type is floating point literal. Floating point basically are your, you can say in a decimal numbers like 20.3. Okay, numbers with fractional part. There should be a decimal point and there must be at least one digit either before it or after it. Like you can, at least this should be there. Now what is this? 3 point means 3.0. It is understood, right? And 0.3 means 0.3. So that is why the rule is it must have at least one digit with decimal point either before or after it. Okay. Now there are two, you can say two forms in which you can represent your floating point numbers. The first one is fractional form. Basically, generally the form like what we use, we write float decimal numbers like this, right? We have decimal and then you have number before it, after it. So this is the rule for it. Must have at least one digit with the decimal point either before it or after it. So that is your fractional part. And see in the fractional, for the floating point number also the rule is same. If you don't write the sign, it will be taken as positive. So if you want it to be negative, you should explicitly mention minus. Okay. So here are certain examples, like first these are valid. Why valid? Because we have decimal point and we have number before and after, before it or after it. In this case, we have both, right? So this is also valid. This is a valid decimal number with negative sign. 0.3. So this will be treated as 0.3. 0 will automatically be added. The condition is at least one digit. So we have after it. And since this is also valid because we have at least one digit with decimal part, so this will be treated as 7.0. Now let's see the invalid cases. 7, this is invalid because there is no decimal point. 17 divided by 2 is invalid because you cannot use divide symbol. The rule is there should be decimal and digit only. No other symbol can be used. This is also invalid because as you can see, we have used comma, which is not allowed. Only decimal can be used or digits can be used. Same goes here. Now, the next one is exponent form. So exponent form, we have two parts, mantissa and exponent. Okay, so we will discuss this using an example. Suppose you are given this decimal number. So it is written as 0.e into 10, like 0.78 into 10 to the power 1 can be written as 0.78 E01. Now the part before E is your mantissa and the part after E is your exponent, which means power. So basically this is the number and then you write the power after it. Okay. So basically the mantissa must be either integer or your real constant, that is decimal number, and it is followed by E, capital or small, and then the exponent. And since exponent is power, so power cannot be in fraction, right? So it must be integer. So the rule is you can either use capital E or small e, write the mantissa, and then write the exponent after this. That's the simple rule. Mantissa can be integer, it can be fractional, but the exponent, which is the power, cannot be your fraction, right? Fractional. It should be integer only. So let's see certain valid and invalid example. Now here we have 152e plus 8. What does that mean? It is 152 is mantissa, so you write it like this. Now write the multiplication sign. E will be replaced with 10. Now this is your exponent, so it is 8. Okay. Now the next thing is this 152. Now I've explicitly mentioned the size. If you don't mention, sign, if you don't mention the sign, it will be taken as positive. Now here the sign is negative, which means 152 is the mantissa part. E will be replaced with 10. And then you have 10 to the power minus 3. That's how you represent your number. Easy, right? Now here 0.25 means 0.25. This we discussed. Into, now E in place of E write 10, and then 3 is the exponent, which means 10 to the power 3. Similarly here it is 3 point means 3.0, and then 10 to the power 3. So if, as you can observe here, see, this is your mantissa part, this is your exponent part, and this thing is replaced with E. Simple. Okay. Now let's see some invalid cases. Now this is invalid. Why? You try to convert it into the original form. Let's write 1.7 is mantissa. Okay. Now into, replace E with 10. Okay, 10. Now what is the power? Power is not mentioned. So you cannot have, like, you cannot do like this. You should know the power if you're writing in this form. So that's why it is invalid. Now let's see the second example. We have 0.17. Okay, 0.17, fine. 0.17 into the exponent part is 2.3. Obviously, the exponent can never be in fractional form. So this is wrong, right? Now let's see the second example. As I told you, mantissa can be integer or your fractional part. And we know integer literal can never have commas. So that is why this is wrong. You cannot have comma. I hope this is clear to you. And you might get 1 or 2 mark question for categorizing the numbers. Like if they might give you some numbers in exponent form, and they would ask you to categorize them in valid as in and invalid. So you should just know the rules for that. Now, numeric value with commas are not treated as int or float. As I told you, it is neither int nor float, because in integer also you cannot use commas. Python treats them as tuples. See, if you write this in idle, if you write these two in idle, it will give you an error. But if you write these two in idle, it will not give you any error, because these are treated as tuples. Now, what are tuples? That you will know in the later videos when we will discuss tuples. Okay, so that is, for now, you should know that this will not give you any error, because it is considered as tuples, which we will discuss later on. Now the next one is Boolean Literal. Boolean basically means true or false. So it is used to represent one of the values, true or false. Minded that the T is capital and F is small. That is why these are known as keywords also, because they have special meaning. Okay, they have special meaning. Now the next one is non-literal. Non-literal is a special literal which is used to represent absence of value, which means there is no information present, and it is also used to indicate end of list. Let's discuss this on idle. Okay, so let's say I have this variable in which I am storing, well, writing something like this, none. Now if I print A, it will not give me anything, because it means absence of value. It is giving me the same value. But if I write this, it gives me the value. But when I say none, it gives me the same variable, because none means absence of value. Okay, now suppose I have x equals to 5 and I write y equals to x. Now if I write y, it will be 5 only, because I'm writing y is same as x. Now if I do this, print hello. Okay, so print, as I told you, is a function from printing the value. If you write string, it will print it as it is. So it will print hello. Now what is y? Y is nothing. Y is none. Why? Because print function is used for printing values. It does not return anything. It does not return anything means there is absence of value. It means it returns none. Now, since it returned none, so none will be stored in y, and that's why when you are printing y, it is not printing anything, because there is no value present, absence of value. Like if I write like this, then it will give you none. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. So that's all for this video. Now, if you have any queries, please drop them in the comment section. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.